women.
We're going to talk
so
about
far,
the fembots.
I have avoided showing these characters on screen, but I am talking...
So, if you're on TikTok, this is a really good reason to go over to Twitch, because we are about to get some hot fembot on fembot action. What it do? Well, I've been playing Atomic Heart for about an hour or so on stream, and now it's time to talk about all this stuff. So, that's what we're going to do. What are my pronouns? My pronouns are she, they. Thank you for asking. Feel free to request guest access if you want to discuss this. We're going to go through this video first, though. So, just vibing and cleaning, well, I'm glad to hear that. So in case you haven't been here for one of these before, the way this works is we are simultaneously streaming on TikTok and on Twitch. Today we're going to be reacting to a video. If you want to see the video, you've got to be on Twitch. So go to twitch.tv/arcanearia and you can actually see the video. But if you don't want to see the video, you just want to hear the audio, that's totally fine. Hang out here on TikTok with me. And that'll work just fine as well. The video is pretty cool because it's going to have footage of Atomic Heart, which is a wild-ass game. The video that we are reacting to is titled Please Don't Buy Atomic Heart. I'm not going to mention the channel because they have gotten a lot of harassment over this video, and that's not okay. I disagree with their argument, and that's what we're going to be going over. Obviously, I disagree because I've been playing the game. But yeah, so we're going to go through this. I'm going to react. We're going to talk about it. But please do not go bother this person. This is just their opinion, and having a different opinion doesn't justify all the hate that they've been getting. And through this discussion, I hope to answer the question, is playing Atomic Heart supporting Putin's war against Ukraine? So, let's get started. Let's get started with the video. It's sweet of you to keep them anonymous. Most don't do that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have reacted to this video. That's why this person's been getting so much hate. And they don't deserve that hate. But they are wrong about this, I believe, personally. And, you know, a lot of people, it's okay to if you disagree with me on this issue. Like, you're still part of this community and everything. It's cool. We don't need to be mad at each other. But I just think it's... I think this illustrates... How do I explain this? This person's arguments to a leftist make a lot of sense on the surface. If you just don't put any additional thought into it, that sort of thing, or even if you do put additional thought into it, it just seems like the sort of thing we should agree with. But I think it betrays the reality of the situation. But we're going to get into this. Guess I'll have to get the game then. It's a great game so far. Putin needs your support against all you all. That's a fascinating take, Pew. It's pretty weird that you're fronting for Putin. Shit, guess I'm buying the game now. Well, the game does not support Putin. That's the point that I'm trying to make. But this person's arguing against it. So let's hear what they have to say. Let's get started on the video.
Today is August 9th, 1945. The US drops 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, turning the cities to dust and ending the lives of more than 200,000 people, shortly after which Japan surrendered.
I don't mind if people buy the game.
In celebration,
it's a good game.
The US government creates and publishes a tabletop board game called Nuclear Love, themed according to the operation performed. It was made for 2 players, where one would be playing on the side of the US and the other would be playing as Japan. The game features dice that look like miniature atomic bombs, and the person who manages to bomb the other's city capital first wins. By rules of the game, however, the US side would always have the first turn, which brought natural advantage, and the board game, despite the patriotism and popularity, failed on the market. Sounds like a rather unethical piece of military propaganda that nullifies the tragedies, right? That's because Nuclear Love never existed, and I just made it up. But there is a...
And so he's going to equate this fictional board game that he just created, this fictional situation of this game existing, with the game Atomic Heart, as if Atomic Heart is somehow pro-Russian war propaganda. I don't see any reason to think that it is. I haven't finished the game. So far, I wouldn't say it it portrays the Soviet Union in a particularly positive light. It's not as negative as it could be, I suppose. But like so far, I've seen little hints about like, hey, it really sucked when Stalin was in charge. Like people talking about that, or just hints that like people aren't treated super well. There appears to be a social credit system and that sort of thing. So, not sure how, like, yeah, I just do not get the argument that this is at all pro Russian propaganda, and I don't have a problem with being pro Russian. Russia isn't the problem. The people of Russia aren't the problem. Putin is the problem. So, whatever.
A similar situation that does exist.
You're looking at True Beauty.
And it is about to be released. And its name is Atomic Heart. I want to preface the video by saying that if you're the type of person that is still going to buy and play something like Hogwarts Legacy despite its infamy, you might as well click off, as I'm going to explain why it's a bad idea to purchase and play Atomic Heart.
This is not about the Wizard game, so don't worry.
Have a Joe Rogan podcast to catch up on, or play Call of Duty or something, I don't know. Off you go. Being
yes,
Ukrainian
user
myself,
anonymous name. That's you. Go watch a Joe Rogan podcast.
So even if 100 people see this, I'm satisfied. Even if one person cancels their pre-order because of this video, I'm satisfied. I will be turning monetization on for this video if possible, and all revenue from this video will be going straight to local Ukrainian charities. But let's start with the basics. What is Atomic Heart? Atomic Heart is a video game set to be released on February 21st, 2023 that is positioned by the developers as BioShock in the USSR.
And I mean, I feel like this is a good successor to BioShock so far. The systems are, I would say, about the same level of complexity as BioShock. But BioShock had like much more interestingly designed encounters and that sort of thing, at least so far. But the setting and the themes and the presentation of this game have been incredible so far. Just so good. The art direction is amazing. What the hell is wrong with leave the gaming community alone? Yeah, I don't think you're paying attention. So what I'm trying to say is that this game is not actually something that is a bad thing to be avoided. That's the argument that I'm making. I'm reacting to a video from somebody else who disagrees. So you actually agree with me. You just are so dead set on disagreeing with me that you have imagined you disagree. But anyway, yeah, BioShock in the USSR, not an inaccurate description, though I do feel it's a little reductive.
Describes the events of the alternative history of the 50s, where the Soviet Union emerged from the Second World War scientifically and technologically advanced, reaching the peak of development with cold nuclear fusion and intelligent robots. You play as Mayor Nechayev, who is a KGB
boring-ass character,
and
by
an
the way.
officer at special assignments. So far, the game has been universally appraised, earning top spots in oncoming games lists on sites like PC.
So it is not universally praised anymore. It's gotten very mixed reviews, and also like this person's argument is probably hurting the game. I think a lot of people perceive this game as pro-Putin propaganda, or that buying or playing the game will somehow financially support the Russian military. I think that is what most people are concerned about, and I think that's actually hurt the sales of the game. Yeah, Chad always wants to kiss me. That's how they be.
Gamer, IGN, and Gamescom. But let's see who is really behind it. The game is developed by a Russian studio called Montfish. On the website of the studio, there is currently no mention of the fact that this is a Russian game dev. The story of the company begins with its launch in 2017 by a team of...
And there's nothing wrong with the game devs being Russian. Hello, Dad Bod, welcome on in. But there's nothing wrong with the dev team being Russian. The people of Russia are not the problem. What a ridiculous way to think about this. Why would there be anything wrong with the developers of a game happening to be Russians? So now, look, the person who made this video is Ukrainian. I think they may also currently live in Ukraine. So I understand why they would have a little bit of bias in this area and be a little bit sensitive about this. But yeah, the people of Russia aren't the issue. The issue is that a madman named Putin decided to invade the Ukraine. And the people of Russia don't deserve to be scorned or looked at with suspicion just because their government happens to be doing tremendously immoral actions. What is your source? Well, we're watching a video. I didn't want to say who the creator is because they've been reacted to a lot and people have been really coming after them. But we're watching a video titled, "Please Don't Buy Atomic Heart." But aren't we supposed to be boycotting Russian firms in order to hurt their economy? Well, a lot of nation states have been putting sanctions on Russia and like international organizations and that sort of thing. Your and my personal buying habits are not going to impact the war in the Ukraine. I'm sorry to break it to you. But if you thought that you were going to somehow save the Ukrainian people by picking and choosing the products that you buy, you're not. There's no possible ethical consumption under capitalism, and in the global economy that we have, there's like literally no way for you to live your life without in some way contributing to the Russian economy. And it's not your responsibility to do so. You didn't invade the Ukraine. It's just it does. There's no benefit. There's no point to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, the only way that Ukraine is going to survive is if the people of Ukraine defeat Russia. That has nothing to do with buying a video game. Who is going to listen to something who doesn't even know what gender it is? Who is going to take a TikTok commenter seriously who can't put together a coherent sentence?
Or a like-minded gaming enthusiast in Cyprus. At the same time, the studio was mentioned as a Russian one with an office in Moscow in Russian gaming and IT media articles. In 2019, there was even a report from the Moscow office of the studio. And after the events of 2022,
the developer is
the
Russian.
company completely ostracized itself from being known as a strictly Russian company and is now presenting itself as international, which in terms of their history of office installments and offshores means half Cyprus, half Armenian, half Singapore, and whatever the hell else.
I mean, that does sound international to me.
Negative spotlight. So, now that we've established that this is
and I don't think that the only reason they have international offices are to avoid spotlight.
What could be their stance on this tragic matter that could save and keep their public image and also not tank the sales? Let's read out loud together. Guys, we have noted the questions surrounding where we at Montfish stand. We want to assure you that Montfish is a developer and studio with a global team focused on an innovative game and is undeniably a pro-peace organization against violence against people.
And I would say that the game so far has an anti-war message to a degree. I mean, it seems like developing these tools. Well, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into too much spoilers, but I would say that the game is not particularly pro-war so far, at least.
We do not comment on politics or religion. Rest assured, we're a global team focused... Hold on, stop. We do not comment on politics? You're making a game that's sole idea is USSR renewal and communism.
So, that seems like a fair point on the surface, and it kind of is, right? But here's the thing that they're not thinking about. The reason that they can't make the kind of political statements that they probably would like to make is because they live in Russia. It would not be safe for them to do so. Like, what do you want them to do? You want them to be like, we oppose this war specifically. Well, that is not something that you're allowed to say in Russia and still remain in business and be able to run a successful game development company. That might even end up getting you hurt, might end up getting you put into prison. You might get black-bagged. People might show up, might corner you in an alley one day, and you just might not get seen again. It's not that simple. This evil dictator that you're trying to fight, well, these people actually live under his boot. So I think that might be the reason why they're not making super strong political statements against the war. Might have something to do with it. You don't even understand who you are biologically. Why would I listen to your woke ideas on this? Not sure why you would listen to me at all. Not sure why you're here.
You classified your game as inspired by Bioshock and Prey, yet you go the no politics in my video game route? This is one step away from the types of gamers who say, I don't like politics in my video game, and then immediately open up Fallout.
But they didn't say that. They didn't say we don't put politics in our video games. They're saying they don't make political statements. we're talking about Fallout right now. I'm pretty sure Bethesda didn't put out tweets like nuclear war is bad. Did you know that? Did you guys know that it's bad when people blow each other up with nuclear bombs? Because we all know that. They don't need to. We also don't need the developer of Atomic Heart to say that the war in Ukraine is bad for us to know that the war in Ukraine is bad. That's absolutely ridiculous. And on top of this, so the developers of Fallout live in relatively free countries. They would be allowed to criticize their government. They would be allowed to say that nuclear war is bad. In fact, it would be an extremely uncontroversial opinion for them to have said so. And yet they didn't do it, and you're not bitching about that. But you're bitching about Monkfish not making a strong statement against the war when making a strong statement of the war would put them in danger. Why are people bringing gender into this? Because trans people cannot exist on the internet without constant harassment. It's okay, it's part of the charm of the stream.
What absolute nonsense. After that, their response to criticism regarding that tweet was simply...
Anwell says because the chat wants to smooch the host, but she is unavailable to him. That is largely true. Yeah, that is my source, my DMs.
To ban people, so it's a short end there. Now, let's look at the CEO of Monkfish, whose name is Robert Pagratuni. Except that it isn't. His actual name is Maxim Zatsepin. Max previously had a position of...
I mean, I don't know why the guy changed his name, but did you know this person has a Russian name? This is like more Russian people are bad bullshit. Are you ready to get drafted, honey? No, I'm not. Thankfully, I'm way too old for the draft. In all fairness, I am all the cute, flirty DMs. You're not all of them. You're just some of them. Do you actually think you look like a woman? I'd have no idea if I look like a woman to you, but I am a woman, so it doesn't really matter what you think. The Harry Potter game is good? It might be. I don't really know. You just a frightening looking man. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you find me frightening. You can't wait for the next Civil War. Why is that? What are you looking forward to doing in that Civil War? 1 year is bigger than the other. Really? Oh, that's cool. The draft isn't going to be enacted. The Bush administration said nukes in Iraq before drafting. Well, that's terrifying. It's a terrifying thing for Bush to have said. I certainly hope a nuclear war doesn't happen. That'd be really bad for us. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about video games, guys.
Creative direct.
We're talking about whether or not it's bad that people involved in this video game happen to be Russian, which is an insane thing that we're to be talking about.
/ top manager in Mail.ru, which is now presented as VK, the biggest social media platform in Russia. It doesn't take much to figure out that a platform that is based in Russia, directed and controlled by Russia, and is used only by Russians will have a strict pro-Russian stance. But
yeah, they'll have a pro-Russian stance because they are required to have a pro-Russian stance, my dude.
Doesn't end there. Meet Yevgenia Sidova. As the founder of Monkfish, she's a former model and an owner of a modeling agency. She worked at New Media Stars, where she was in charge of the computer graphics department. That company is now in charge of various pro-Russian mass media, such as Vzglyad.ru and...
All media in Russia is pro-Russian media. That's the only kind of media that is allowed to exist in Russia.
According to the former employees of the company, all Monkfish transactions and checks are on her behalf. Let's roll back the time a little bit. The game has been in development for quite a while, and by quite a while, I mean at least 7 years.
I think it's like 10 years.
Earliest trailers dating back to 2017, and the scene in 2017 and 2018 wasn't as smooth for them. Many people got interested and excited, but a lot of people were skeptical, the reason being a shady system of pre-orders. Let me paint you a
this
picture.
Is all true.
An unknown company posts a small teaser trailer of some generic assets and a description to cause hype, with all of the effort to guide you to their pre-order page, where you would be met with a $60 base game, $90 pre-order for Gold Edition, and $100 for Premium Edition. Mind you, you see these price tags, and there's exactly 2 minutes of badly made teaser trailer footage with no gameplay to serve as the video game's representation and marketing. What did not help.
It is true that the marketing in the early days of this game were shady, and there's like other bad business practices too. Let's skip ahead. We don't need to worry about that. There was like shady pre-order stuff. The early trailers were deceptive. It was bad. The company shouldn't have done that. Moving on.
Now let's talk economics. If you were to buy one and spend $60, where would these $60 go? That is a really good question to answer.
We're getting to the big question, the heart of the argument. This will help us understand. I'm sorry. This will help us understand if buying this game, playing this game, really does support the war effort against Ukraine by the Russian military and Putin.
Let's look at what kind of companies signed up to be the investors and publishers for Atomic Heart, basically to be the ones who would be taking the large cut in Atomic Heart's revenue. The investors of the studio are Chinese Tencent and Russian GEM Capital and Gaijin Entertainment. Tencent needs no introduction.
So bad groups, right? GEM Capital. If you don't know, there are a lot of Russian oligarchs involved in GEM Capital. I believe it's just straight up a Russian firm. Tencent is real tight with the CCP and the Chinese government, which means they're bad. They're very bad. But you know, I noticed this person hasn't said anything about boycotting League of Legends. I noticed this person didn't say that you are supporting genocide, which is occurring in China right now by the Chinese government. But I noticed they're not saying that you're supporting genocide if you buy a League of Legends skin. But they are saying that you're supporting the war in Ukraine and possibly genocide. I wouldn't be surprised if this person considers it genocide. A lot of people do. They're saying that you are supporting that if you buy or play Atomic Heart. Well, why the double standard? Well, the double standard is because this war has created an anti-Russian sentiment where people are concerned about Russian people when what they should be concerned about is the Russian government, the Russian military, Putin. And that's where this is coming from.
Being infamous was its licensing technique and hunger over users' data. So let's start with Gaijin Entertainment, which moved from Russia to Hungary in 2022 in order to avoid conflict and continue its activities. The head of the PR, Konstantin Hovorun, illegally visited the Ukrainian Crimea, which is temporarily occupied by Russia, and repeatedly
and I don't know anything about this or if this is true.
Politics of the Russian Federation. But the most interesting sponsor is GEM Capital. GEM Capital is a Russian fund founded by Anatoly Pali, who previously worked at Gazprom's subsidiary Gazenergoset. The studio raised investments from them in 2021, where Anatoly met and became friends with oligarchs who got rich on oil and gas activities and now have the opportunity to invest large sums of money in various projects. Namely, the export of gas and oil is one of the main categories of income of the Russian budget, the money from which goes to the military industry.
So yeah, this guy is a scumbag who's highly integrated. Hello, Ashprut, how are you doing? Who's highly integrated into the Russian economic war machine, just like basically all investors are in Russia. So if you're a developer in Russia and you're looking for an investment in your game, chances are some of your investors are going to be bad guys. And it turns out that some of the investors in this game are bad guys. That's the way it is. Do the Russian people not deserve to be able to make art and have it appreciated just because their government invaded another country and is doing horrific shit? I don't think so. Now, if this game was somehow having a material effect on the war, if this game meant that Russia had a higher chance of defeating Ukraine or something like that, then there would be an argument there. But a video game is not going to cause is not going to affect the war like that, obviously.
If you know basic economics and finances, you know that all investments must be returned, including interest. Moreover, a Twitter user found Pali's connection to other Russian state institutions, such as the sanctioned, systematically important bank VTB, the game attracted as many as 4 publishers: Xbox, 4 Divinity.
So when you're seeking investors, investors by definition are people with a lot of money. Oftentimes they are millionaires, perhaps billionaires. And it turns out that a lot of millionaires and billionaires are bad people. If you went to any game that's published by Microsoft Studios, then and you looked at all the investors in Microsoft who fund the company, a lot of those are very, very bad people too, just as bad as this Anatoly guy, I'm sure. The argument just doesn't hold water. You don't strike me as someone who is ready to go fight Russians. I'm not ready to go fight anybody, you're right. Not at all.
Focus Entertainment and VK Play. Let's focus on VK Play. It is known to be a gaming division of the former Mail.ru, the same Mail.ru who had Maxim Zatsepin as their former top manager. And again, it is closely connected with the Russian government and participates in many initiatives of the Kremlin. If Atomic Heart is being developed with money that originated from sanctioned Russian businesses such as VK and Mail.ru, and banks which are systematically important to Russian government such as VTB, profits from the game could be directed to help the Russian government in its invasion. The
game is bad because it was funded by banks. My dude, every game was funded by banks. I mean, basically what you're saying is that there are tremendous flaws with the global economy that cause everyday economic activity to support immoral acts of warfare and destruction and mass murder. And that's true. That's true. But, yeah. Atomic Heart isn't doing that on its own.
Atomic Heart, you would pay money to companies that support the aggressive policies and military actions of the Russian Federation. Lastly, there were some incredible terms of service and privacy policy.
Every time you buy anything in the United States of America, anytime that you buy anything in the United States of America, you pay sales tax. That sales tax goes to the American government. I don't know if you know this, but the American government really likes to do warfare and combat and colonization and things like that. The Russian military, the United States military is not a force for good in the world. So every time you buy anything in the United States of America, your money is going to support the immoral war machine of the United States. So there's no argument here. This argument that he's making only applies if you can only logically hold this in your head and be consistent if you just don't fucking buy anything ever. If you just completely go off the grid and exist outside of society. Which, if that's what you want to do, I mean, fucking go for it. I would like to do that. I don't have the skills to do that. If I did, I would, right? But yeah, I don't think this person is like some sort of anarcho-primitivist or anything like that. They're just biased against Russians. That's really what it comes down to.
Spotted over at Montfish. The website now leads to a 404, but someone managed to capture these screenshots. Basically, it says that your information can and will be transferred to the Russian government, in particularly the Federal Security Service.
Hey, Happy Puritan.
And not just your username, but your full name, physical address, email, phone number, IP address, and so on. Gotta say,
Happy Puritan, I would be very curious to get your take on this.
Their mobilization methods are getting kinda dire. Finally, let's talk about the game itself for a bit. Set in the USSR in 1955, Atomic Heart's story begins as the Soviet scientist Dmitry Sechenov creates an AI-assisted Legion of Robots.
So in TikTok chat, the Honorable Orochi says, "Are you biased?" I think they mean to say, "You are biased against Russia or for Russia. Damn, haven't heard a neutral statement at all." I'm so confused. Are you biased against Russia or for Russia? Haven't heard a neutral statement at all. If I haven't said a neutral statement, then you should be able to tell which I am. Don't hate. They're just making an argument against the game. I'm not making an argument against the game. I'm actually making an argument, if anything, in support of the game. Yeah, Wolfenstein, what about it? Oh yeah, hey, that's a good point. Like, well, no, it's not. I mean, Wolfenstein wasn't. The argument here is that Russia is currently at war and trying to exterminate the Ukrainian people to an extent, and that this is somehow supporting those efforts. And I'm just saying that it's not.
Robots that take control of all men.
They're confused if I'm for or against the game. I know that they're confused, and I have no idea why. I've been consistently saying that I do not think that playing this game is a bad thing, or buying the game.
Manual labor, leaving humans free to live a life of leisure and luxury. The main protagonist is a mentally unstable officer on special assignments, nicknamed P3, who is sent by this Professor
Orochi, I
Sechenov
do not
to keep the
understand what you're trying to
situation
say
at
at all.
Facility 3826 from deteriorating. The game is set in a utopian universe where the USSR had won and had a major boost in technical progress. The gameplay is centered around fighting through hordes of various types of enemies, ranging from plain robots to cosmic horror type obscurities. The game is filled to the brim with USSR themed keepsakes and memorabilia, from drinking.
Dr. E. Padio says the war is made to extract money from the American taxpayer. I don't think that's the reason why the war was made. I think the reason the war was made is because Putin has imperialist and expansionist ambitions and sees the cultural extermination of the Ukrainian people as a convenient way to help him achieve that.
Condensed milk straight out of the can, to actual flags and symbols of the USSR, hammer and sickle. This kind of approach to the showcase of USSR and communism.
NATO is responsible? NATO is not responsible for this war. That gets you banned. We do not spread misinformation on this channel, especially about and during an active war.
Walks a thin line between using it for world building and praising it, and there are many solid reasons to believe that this line has been crossed completely right into promoting and idealizing the USSR regime and using it as a tool of USSR and Russian military propaganda.
And as I said, so far the game does not necessarily present the Soviet Union in a strictly positive light. It's kind of like it's like mixed. I mean, it's an alternate history version of this, where the USSR was culturally and technologically dominant over the West, and so I mean, it makes sense that that the history of the USSR would be a little bit more complicated in this world than it is in ours.
There have been events to prove this. Take a look at this event that people behind VK organized.
Wow, what the heck happened to the men of this country? I know, they just send unsolicited dick pics non-stop. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
It was a special showcase of atomic heart for the Russian press, which was stylized in the game's Soviet aesthetics. And they did not go stingy on the decorations, huh? The event included a dinner in a large banquet hall where you could...
For the record, I do find that kind of weird. Like, I would be uncomfortable with, like, hanging out in something that glorifies the Soviet Union, especially, like, if I was in Russia. That'd be a little weird.
See Soviet-style slogans, like, glory to the Soviet engineers, or comrade join the society of the future. One of the users in Twitter replies said, imagine if developers of Wolfenstein had a Nazi-themed party. And I would say
that'd be pretty
bad.
That'd be worse, but it would be bad too, yeah.
Lead gameplay designer rightfully accused Monfish of being...
So I guess it's... I wasn't able to see what the text said because I don't read Russian, but supposedly this is a translation. Supposedly, the banner at this Atomic Heart Party said, "Glory to Soviet engineers, comrade, join the society of tomorrow." So those aren't actual, as far as I'm aware, those aren't actually Soviet slogans. Those are slogans in the game referring to events in the game, actually. Constantly talking about the engineers. There's like a space program. and like there's like advanced robotics going on and stuff like that. The engineering, the Soviet engineers, and in fact one specific Soviet engineer is a major part of the game. Comrade, join the society tomorrow is something they say in the game, and it's like they're so at the very beginning of the game. Everybody in the Soviet Union is getting like a Neuralink thing, like a little thing they put in their head, so that they can be plugged into something called the collective. What could go wrong, right? This saying, "Comrade, join the society of tomorrow," is specifically referring to everybody receiving these like neural implants that happen at the beginning of the game. So I actually don't. I mean, I guess it is Soviet aesthetic, but it's talking about the game. It's not actually promoting the real Soviet Union. This is talking about the fictional events of the game. So this was not a pro-Soviet event. This wasn't glorifying the Soviet Union. This was promoting the video game.
Nostalgic about the Soviet regime, or even glorifying it. Ironically, the party's date coincided with the adoption of the new anti-LGBT law in Russia, which brings us right back to USSR, I guess. A major point that I want to bring attention to that there have been numerous well-made games with a Soviet or USSR or low-lying Eastern Europe theme or setting. Let's bring some examples. In Singularity, the Soviet Union discovered a source of element 99 and has special powers that could warp time itself, trying to
This does sound like a cool game, I gotta
admit. Time travel. If you're in the mood for video games that came out 15 years ago but already played through all the world-famous ones, you should give it a try. In Half-Life 2, the setting of City 17 has not been directly said to be in a specific part of the world, but it's clear that it's been influenced by Eastern Europe's architecture and style. Bulgarian art director Viktor
Yeah, I guess I always
Othmanov,
assumed
the
it took
person
place
behind
somewhere in
City
Eastern
17
Europe.
and Dunwall of Dishonored, mentions his childhood hometown of Sofia as main inspiration for City 17. Other places like
Just
Belgrade
leave,
were also
child,
used as
damn.
reference.
If you're on Twitch, TikTok chat's kind of popping off. Some wild shit going on down there. How is what Russia's doing different than what Israel is doing to Palestine? Or what the U.S. does to everyone? I suppose it's not really all that different, is it? And I oppose all of those actions. So thank you, Nalchemist. That actually was a very insightful comment.
In Disco Elysium, the streets of Martinez show what it would be like to live through the failure of an attempted communist revolution. You can still see artillery damage and bullet holes in the walls, notes the lead writer Helen Hinpere. There's this feeling of being stuck in the past. People of Soviet and post-Soviet era are very familiar with this feeling, especially those who live in countries like Moldova or Estonia, which is the homeland of the game's lead designer, Robert.
And again, I can understand why somebody, the person making this game, who is from the Ukraine, would have like strong feelings about Soviet imagery and would not like seeing it, and probably would not enjoy playing this game. That's fair enough, but that's not a strike against the game itself. There's a lot of people who would be very uncomfortable playing Wolfenstein because of all the Nazi imagery, right? But that doesn't mean that they're pro-Nazi or anything like that.
It's its own spin of what being a communist entails through its own political vision quest and partially the main quest. I won't spoil it, and I do suggest you try it out yourself.
Ash Prue, if we are both following each other, you can send me a DM. That'd be awesome. If not, I will try to check on it later.
Coming back to Atomic Heart, another point that rubs me the wrong way
you gotta send me DMs
is the
if you want a mod.
marketing strategy. It seems like their
But I would
marketing
appreciate
team
the help.
realized that the previous shady strategy has failed to bring in pre-orders, so they went with another plan to make typical capital G gamers buy their game, which is of course none other than through sexualization and objectification of women.
We're gonna talk about the
I have
fembots.
avoided showing these characters on screen, but I am talking.
So, if you're on TikTok, this is a really good reason to go over to Twitch, because we are about to get some hot fembot on fembot action. Putin makes money on Atomic Hearts? Not really. I don't think so. That's what this person thinks, though.
Talking about the couple of female USSR-styled robots that they suddenly added in recent trailers and thumbnails to get the attention of the lusty neckbeards. Just by searching...
And I will say that in Twitch chat, when the fembots showed up, everyone got really fucking excited. Chat got a lot more lively when they showed up.
Atomic Heart on YouTube and scrolling far down, it's impossible to miss the countless trailers.
There's some hot-ass robots, I'm not gonna lie.
Shorts about these characters, with some videos claiming that they'll buy the game just for these two, which also brings in the ongoing issue of sexualizing lesbians in media. Not only is marketing...
While I agree that there is a problem with lesbian relationships being overly sexualized, there's also nothing wrong with depicting lesbio-eroticism. I might be saying that wrong. But just depicting it is not wrong. It's okay that it's in the game. It's fine. I liked it. Chat liked it. A lot of not straight people were in that chat, and were very into it, so...
like this, highly unethical and immoral, as we've been fighting with objectifying and sexualizing women, especially in media and advertisements, especially lesbians, but it's...
Look, every once in a while you can have a little bit of objectification as a treat. As long as it's voluntary objectification, and you don't do it too much, and you don't make it like a ubiquitous thing, where people think it's just part of normal everyday society. You just want to have a little bit of objectification as a treat, you can go for it. And there are some hot lady robots that you can objectify in this game.
Also actually illegal. For example, in Ukraine, our parliament adopted a law banning sexism in advertising, which became active in January
that's pretty
2022. Based. Elected officials have banned showing the superiority of one gender over another in physical, intellectual, or social aspect, showing stereotypical roles of men and women, gender-based violence, as well as the human body as a sexual object. In simpler terms,
I did not know those were laws in Ukraine.
And cheap. And what pains me to say is that it seems to be working. These YouTube shorts and edits are getting millions of views, quickly becoming favorite among the fans, who quickly started to spread rumors about a possible 6-hour...
People like boobies? Don't play Atomic Heart, guys. People like boobs. So don't play the game.
Sex scene in the video game. It's so wrong.
I like Atomic Heart. I recommend it.
In conclusion, what can you do to support Ukraine on this matter? If you did purchase a pre-order of Atomic Heart, the first and the best step would be to cancel it, request a refund, and send that exact amount of money to Ukrainian charities. The second part is admirable, but not necessary. Simply canceling the pre-order is fine. And let's be honest, in this day and age, you shouldn't be buying pre-orders anyway.
True.
If you want to go
Don't pre-order
further,
shit, guys.
you can do the following.
It's not a good idea.
You can go to the game's shop page, click on the complaint flag, select the item breach of the law, contains materials that violate the laws of your country, and write a similar text or something on that matter. In case you didn't know, Ukraine has implemented a law that restricts and bans all Soviet and USSR propaganda.
So their argument is that the game is illegal in the Ukraine. Okay. Still don't get why that should stop anybody else from playing the game.
And the symbols and memorabilia. We had quite enough of that. If you simply want to stand aside and be an innocent bystander, there is a way as well. When the game comes out on February 21st, simply play a different game. It's that easy. Don't wishlist Atomic Heart, don't buy it, and go play something like Disco Elysium instead. You should wishlist Stalker 2, though.
Disco Elysium's a great game.
Some users could make a claim that they could simply pirate it and pay no money to the Russian devs and still enjoy the game. To that, I can't say anything. At that point,
I can also
only
say
on the moral compass.
that is illegal. And you all know my position on crime. I'm very hard on crime, and would I would definitely frown upon that activity. So whatever you do, don't go looking up torrent websites where you can download this game and not have to worry about any ethical dilemmas.
Comfortable playing the game.
I love it, Miguel Cervantes. I'm probably saying that wrong. I love it so far.
After watching this video till the end, I've done all in my power, and I can't control your wallet, so I can't stop you from pirating this game. It's just up to your morals and ideals at this point. In the description, I'll be sending the links to all of the articles used for this video. Whether to check it is up to you. I want to give a shout out.
So the only legitimate argument that I can find is that this guy is uncomfortable with the Soviet imagery. He doesn't like it. And he doesn't want to see it. He doesn't want to be around it. And that's totally fine, you know, but like expecting that others will not play the game because you have that sensitivity. Other people don't have that sensitivity. Yeah, it just feels like you're asking somebody to virtue signal for you. It's like you're saying, I want you to show me that you are against the war in Ukraine. And the way that I want you to do that is by you denying yourself something that you want, something that you would enjoy. But it doesn't actually benefit the people of Ukraine. You're just asking people to that's exactly what it is. It's virtue signaling. This is a classic case of virtue signaling. This person is asking you to do a meaningless virtue signal. Otherwise, they feel it's very bad. Or 2112. I believe there is an explanation in game why some robots are sexy. I haven't gotten to that point yet about why some of the robots are sexy. I imagine there is an explanation. The sexuality of the robots is definitely a theme of the game and part of the story. There is a refrigerator, for instance, in the game that is extremely horny. So if you've ever wanted to play a game with an extremely horny refrigerator, play Atomic Heart. That's one of the highlights of it, to be honest. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. I got this argument. I got similar arguments, rather, from some people in the community, and we had a discussion about it. I don't care if you disagree with me. That's cool. But it made me realize that I have a lot to say about it, so I decided that we would talk about it today, especially since I've been playing the game. Anyway, yeah, so as Blueberry and Cream is pointing out, a lot of you guys seem to be confused. So I am saying it is fine to play the game, and I like the game. So you guys agree with me? How does that make you feel? I hope it makes you feel profoundly stupid, because that's what you are. Alright, well that was fun. We're not on Tech Talk anymore. We're off. You see, I think that's why I used to get my lives used to get in trouble all the time, is because I used to call people stupid earlier in the live. Now I call people stupid at the end of the live. That's the trick.